Okay, let's do this.
All right, so,
You're gonna have to edit that out.
no, I refuse to edit that out. We've been talking about it for too long now. So, we've gone over all the exposition information about your character background. Also, like I mentioned, we're in Louisiana. It's deep south in the summer. We'll probably say it's about mid-June.
I will try my best at a southern accent.
We don't have to do.
Okay.
I don't know if I want. I'm raw.
Let's not
in
do that
voices.
then.
Let's not do voices. But so I've never been there. I don't think you've ever been to New Orleans, but it does get very humid there as well. And it's kind of like that sort of like sticky heat that as soon as you walk out of your house, yeah. Like nowadays we have like air conditioning and stuff that makes it like bearable when you're indoors, but so I've been told by people who live in humid atmospheres. It's that heat that once you step out of your air conditioned house, like you just like feel like your clothes all cling to you. Yeah, it feels like that like shitty death that you just like never want to experience. So, this is how it begins. So you start awake in your own four-poster bed by the sound of your bedroom door gently closing. You start awake and you're already like coiled in like your sheets that have like gripped onto you like snakes. The memory of a dream is rapidly losing ground to the grim reality that is your life.
That's some deep shit.
Semicolon, you are alone.
Oh. Okay.
Just as you have been every morning since you were wed to an unattentive husband 1 week ago. Looking at the schematic of the house, you and your Henry, your husband Henry. They sleep in separate rooms. They're across the hall from each other, but there is definitely that layer of disconnect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Your husband Henry, comes from a long line of wealth that goes back to the founding of the town 200 years ago in the 1700s. The Beaumonts, from which he claims his lineage, has always maintained a sizable estate on the northern outskirts of town where you now find yourself. So, sitting next to you on a bedside table, and imagine a four-poster bed, like it has that sort of like shears with like curtains hung from it that are kind of wafting. The window's been opened as well. You realize. But sitting next to you on your bedside table is a silver tray with a bowl of fruit, a porcelain pot with steaming tea, and a folded note all arranged meticulously and whisked silently into your room moments earlier, you assume, by Florence, your butler. Judging from the amber sun already streaming through, like the Louisiana haze, this was likely Florence's attempt to inform you that it's time to wake up. It's more or less you've overslept. And that is all the heavy-handed exposition that I'm going to hand you right now.
Alright, so I'd like to read the note.
Alright.
And then stuff my face.
By all means, right. So the first thing you notice upon lifting up the note is that underneath there has been placed a dainty gold key that it looks not super old, but like very finely wrought. But it's quite small. It's maybe about like 3 inches long.
Okay.
But it's like a dainty skeleton key. The letter itself reads, and forgive me, this is another big block of text.
That's fine.
Huge, but it reads, My dearest Claire, I regret that I have been called away to Washington on business and will be gone for 1 week's time. Although this has come on short notice, I have made arrangements for you to have unlimited access to all parts of my home, the grounds, and all of my belongings. This key will grant you entrance to every door, every gate, and every lockbox that I own. All that I ask is that you do not open the door at the end of the first floor corridor. This is where I take my most private moments and most valued solitude. Trusting you with this one thing is trusting you with all my heart. Until I return, with love, Henry.
Aww.
Yeah, it's quite sweet, but definitely, that he's always barred access to you in like the 1 week that you've been married.
Yeah.
To his personal study, the second floor of the library, as well as this door at the end of the first floor corridor. But you presume that this key that he's left is sort of like a master skeleton key to all locks on
It's probably
grounds.
his porn library.
It's probably his porn. It's where he keeps all the porn.
It's where he keeps his porn.
Totally.
Oh.
So then you mentioned you wanted to stuff your face with this fruit.
Yeah, I'm gonna eat some of this fruit. It looks pretty good. I'm pretty hungry. I slept in.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's
Yeah.
sort of like that like honeydew melons, strawberry, like that sort of like morning fruit salad. There's no pineapple, 'cause that's a bit fancy, but
And I don't like pineapple anyway.
right, no. Who does? But yeah, there's like strawberries, honeydew melons, some blueberries. But it's just sort of a light, sort of get you going kind of breakfast.
Yeah.
The tea is also quite good.
Florence knows his shit.
Florence,
I'm gonna stop swearing now.
That's no worries. Florence, is he's been working for Henry for years and years and years and years and years. You think you might have even heard Henry mention at some point that like his like Florence's family has been working for his family for generations as well. They have sort of like that dynastic bond.
Yeah.
Henry, he's about 35 years old, sort of in that going into middle age with no real prospects other than obviously he lives in.
You mean Florence?
Florence, yes. He lives in a very nice house. He has his own room there, and he has more or less the run of the house. He sort of oversees like the day-to-day business of the house. And whenever, as you yet realize in the house, that there's no other like staff that like work there. Like there's like a full there's like a huge kitchen and stuff like that. But to your experience so far, it's just Florence that prepares
keeps everything
the meals.
running and clean and.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, no, he's kind of a mild mannered man. Like in the times you've spoken, he's been very polite because you're the new lady of the house.
Mm-hmm.
But that he's a bit fastidious with the way that he likes things kept, as well as keeping to a schedule.
A schedule.
A schedule.
Schedule.
As he would say.
Okay. Which is why he was very passive aggressively leaving my window open.
Yes, he passive aggressively goes into rooms and nicely leaves you breakfast, but closes the door in such a way that
you wake up.
He wakes you up without actually having to have that face to face
you.
interaction.
Okay, so I guess I'm gonna finish my meal, get dressed and whatnot,
and
I'll go down and play some piano.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just go down and do that.
All right. So
I'll have to have words with Florence later about his door slamming.
Mm-hmm. Florence, he takes most of his time in either the kitchen or in his own sort of suite.
Mm-hmm.
For the reference, this is actually south on the map. So a lot of these windows are south facing. So he takes his. Well, that would be the west side of the house down here, or something.
Okay.
But yeah, so you sort of while away a good portion of the rest of the morning. Florence is again probably in the kitchen. You reckon? And
I reckon.
You reckon? We're not doing voices. That's just the thing that is said. But yeah, there's a fine grand piano. In the picture, it looks like a little baby grand, but it's actually a fine full grand piano down in the parlor.
It was my wedding present.
Sure, we can go with that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's your relationship with Henry so far,
has been good.
Has been
at least cordial, right?
Cordial would actually be a very apt way to describe everything. He kind of more or less swooped in, and it's sort of one of those things where it's just you don't really have too much to offer him financially or socially. But he met you when you were playing piano at the bar. Instantly sort of took a shine to you, and within a month you guys were married. Mm-hmm. And so he definitely wants to sort of support that. He doesn't obviously want you playing piano in a bar anymore.
Yeah.
So he was happy to provide that for you.
I feel like that's gotta cause some kind of scandal though in the kind of higher class community.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a bit of an odd situation in that regard because Henry I said is like fairly enigmatic. Like he doesn't
Yeah.
involve himself in the day-to-day business of like the town. It's just sort of known that he is wealthy and kind of works with sort of financing and sort of he doesn't like finance like small business. Like he finances like high like next level shit. Like international ventures and things.
Okay.
That's what's rumored at least. Like he's a very closed man. But yeah, so it's more so people in the town would probably be like, oh, like old Beaumont like up on the hill or whatnot. Whatever. Like he like married like some random girl, like classic Beaumont, like doing weird things. Kind of that enigmatic man, like who lives on the outskirts.
Okay. So yeah, I'm playing the piano. I'm sure I get tired after a while.
Well, after about an hour passes, you hear the door kind of behind you that is the kitchen door, close, and Florence, he is fairly well dressed. Like he takes his job as head of household, as butler very seriously. So I mean, like he's like completely like decked out, like in like the tailcoat and like all that shit, white gloves, all that shit. And he comes out, and at this point, like the clocks and stuff on the wall, like it's about noon. But Florence comes up, and he asks whether or not you got the master's note.
I did.
He left. It was very good. He had to leave early this morning, around 3:00. And
gross.
Yeah, super gross. And as I'm sure you're aware from reading the note, he's left you full reign of the house. As always, if there's anything that I can provide for you, or anything that I can get for you, do not hesitate to ask.
Okay, Mason, how well do I know the house at this point?
You've been around, like you've been everywhere except for those rooms that, like his study, the second floor of the library, and the the end of the hallway.
Okay, sorry.
One thing to note is that the library itself is 2 stories, and this on the second floor it's not like a whole floor, but I guess sort of like a balcony that rings around the edge of the perimeter. Access through a spiral staircase going up to the second story there. But what that allows is that you can kind of see the second floor from the first floor of the library. And
it's his porn collection.
It's his porn collection. Yeah. No, but you know how it's like you know how like in like Harry Potter there's like the restricted section where like everything's kind of like behind glass
That's
and
what
stuff
it's
like that. That's kind of
they're
like nice cases that are like of like sort of wrought iron. But like all like the books are like very like well kept, and you can like too far away you wouldn't be able to see what they are.
I want to ask Florence, what is beyond the door in the hallway?
He says that Master Beaumont, as you know, is a man who's a very private man about some matters. Even from me, my family has been with him for generations.
Him particularly?
Yeah, he's a necromancer. No, with his family for generations, loyal servants. And we have... I have never been beyond there. To my understanding, it's where the master takes his personal time when he needs to get away from the worries of the world. Yeah. But he's always asked that he's never disturbed there. So, unfortunately, no, my lady, I don't know what lies beyond that door in particular.
I asked him if he cleans or keeps up the second level of the library, the second story of the library.
Says on occasion, yes. All things in the house of this size require dusting, maintenance, and those duties do fall to me in most cases. So yes, I do occasionally go there to do some dusting of some of the older tomes.
Okay, and Mason, I do know that the bookshelf is a door.
Yes, like to clarify, the spiral staircase is sort of like recessed inside one of the larger bookshelves, and it's not exactly like secret passageway level, but the door that opens up to the spiral staircase that is usually locked by Mr. Beaumont is itself a bookcase. But you would know about that as well. Like, it's not like a secret.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. So I am going to leave Florence and go and see if I can, I'm going to say farewell, all that.
Adieu.
Adieu,
Madame.
adieu. And go and see if I can, because the note just said to not go into the corridor.
Yes, the doorway at the end of the first floor corridor.
Yeah. So I'm going to go to the library, and I'm going to see if my key will work on that bookshelf, because I've been around in this. I've been pretty bored this week. I've been pretty bored. I've been stuck inside this house. I've explored it a bit. I've played the piano, but I haven't really done much, so I've spent a lot of my time in the library reading. But I've always been curious as to what's up on the second floor.
Absolutely,
so,
yeah.
I'm going to go and I'm going to open up that bookshelf door with the key. I'm going to try to.
Sure thing. So, yeah, I mean, as you said, like, you don't really have much here. You know, Henry certainly doesn't pay that much attention to you, which is a huge disappointment, actually, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Florence is
It's not
cordial.
how I imagine marriage would be at all.
No. Florence is polite and cordial to you, but by no means, like,
I am not
besties.
his master.
No.
He is. So.
So all you really had is the books on the first floor and the piano, and so obviously, yeah, like, you know, like you, I don't know how much, you probably want to read, like, the entire first floor collection.
Oh, God, no.
Just to know that there's something else out there that would be interesting to see,
she's
I'm sure.
read a few, like, she's maybe read a couple books in there, browsed around a bit to see what she might find interesting, but she's, like, her curiosity is just raging.
It should be noted that most of the books on the first floor are fairly mundane.
Yeah.
Like, there's, like, encyclopedias, law textbooks, sort of, like old, like, Greek histories.
Were there no, like, mysteries?
No, like, it seems like the Beaumont collection didn't trouble itself with more sort of, like, trivial, no, like, fiction.
Yeah.
God, you know, like...
I think that what she could have been looking for were, like, mystery books. She ended up not really finding any, maybe found some good, like, education material, but she got pretty bored. Now she wants to see what's up on the next level.
Totally. So, you walk down the corridor, past the ballroom, towards the doorway to the library, and you do of course have to pass the one door that is forbidden to you to get there. It's right down there at the end of the hallway, and it's right in the corner. So, you know, this end of the hallway is, like, sort of, like, uncharacteristically dark. Like, there's no real, like, windows nearby. Sort of the lighting from the foyer kind of dies out in the sort of area in front of the ballroom. And it's still kind of too early in the day. Like, Francis hasn't, you know, turned on the lights or anything like that. But so yeah, the library itself is quite nice. You know, like, we're talking, like, rich mahogany and leather style. Like, there's nice sort of, like, studded sofas. I didn't draw those in it, but there's nice sofas, like, sort of, like, nice, like, lamps that throw, like, a nice amber light onto things. But then there is, of course, to your left, the bookshelf that you know opens up to reveal the spiral staircase. And you said you wanted to just open it up.
I'm going to try and see if the key will work.
Right. So it's a pretty legit operation where you have to, like, take out a book and like turn the keys. And, like, turn the key in, and then the door just sort of, like, slides right open.
I'm gonna, like, look around and make sure that Florence isn't around me at all, too, like, kind of sneakily, just because, like, I know that this isn't necessarily... I am only doing this because he didn't say specifically not to, you know? Like, he didn't say specifically not to, so therefore I'm doing it, but I still know that I shouldn't be, so I'm gonna do it kind of sneakily.
Well, he said, Henry said very expressly that you have access to the whole house.
Yeah.
Except for that one room.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, like, you know, he assumes, you know, he's basically doing this as a sign of, like, trust. Like, I trust you enough to have access to these other few rooms that I've before borrowed you from.
Oh, okay.
Right. That's kind of, like, how it was, like, inferred.
Okay.
So. But from sort of, you know, you kind of like, you know, cheekily over your shoulder or whatnot, and, like, as you sort of duck into the library, and it seems as if Florence has busied himself with dusting the piano off after you sat there, cleaning it, wiping it down, you know. But yeah, like I said, the library is quite grand. There's nice lamps. It's sort of like if, like, a very scaled down version of like the Harry Potter room in like Wilson.
Okay.
You know.
All right. So does it open?
Yeah. So you take off the book that you know like hides the keyhole. Insert the small fancy gold key into it, and the door slides open, revealing like an old iron spiral staircase going up to the second floor.
Okay, I'm gonna go up it.
Sure thing. So you go up. It's just like one flight of stairs, and there's no. It's just an opening up there on top. The spiral staircase kind of just like goes up onto this balcony.
Yeah.
And yeah, you see down into the first floor there. There's like a fine like wooden rail around.
Mm-hmm.
But this, as you still see, is the only entrance really on the second floor of this library. And again, you see like all these books are kept behind like a wrought iron case, more or less, and they each have a lock on them.
Okay. Can I see what the books are?
Yeah, you could probably peek through.
Okay, I'm gonna read some of the titles of the books.
Mm-hmm.
Do they seem interesting?
At first glance, they definitely seem a bit more interesting than the books on the first floor.
Okay.
This is Henry's like personal collection, that he's accumulated over the years.
Mm-hmm.
There are books sort of like describing like old sort of like mystic rituals and like sort of like ancient like Jewish orders. There are sort of like odd books on like the occult. Various sort of like articles and essays collected on like cult activity in the United States. As well as like some fairly racy shit for the time period. Like there's like this old sort of like a book that you open, like you actually don't open it yet, but yeah, on the title it looks like it's describing like old sort of like a sort of like a you don't really know, it's familiar with it, but it's like some sort of like Indian like orgiastic like weird looking like freaky shit,
Okay.
like sex stuff.
Okay.
So it's stuff like that where it's like in contrast to the
It's
lower
stuff
floor.
That he wouldn't want people to necessarily see that he has, but it is his.
Exactly, like if
So it's his porn library. I'm kidding.
I mean, yes and no. Like
Yeah.
it's his secret stash, more or
Yeah.
less. And the thing is, there's a lot of them. There's a couple hundred books up here, you reckon? And each one of them seem to be either fairly old or very just sort of out of place in a respectable home. Is a good way to describe this collection of literature.
Yeah. So I'm gonna take a few books out, and I'm gonna sift through them. Mm-hmm. One of them is gonna be the Indian one.
Definitely one of them.
Yeah.
It's like essentially like the Kama Sutra.
Yeah,
kind
I
of stuff,
figured.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, when like the cult studies of in the U.S.
Right.
And then we'll do another one. We'll do the Jewish one, because that sounded strange. Like I've never heard of anything like that before.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds very specific.
So I'm just making some notes for people who can't see. Right, so absolutely, if nothing else, this has offered you a look into your husband that...
And kind of the shelteredness that he, like, the closed off, like, what he tries to hide from people.
Potentially, yes. Like, this is just something that you haven't, a side of him, as you would say, that you haven't really seen of him before, mm-hmm. that you wouldn't have expected him to really be interested in this kind of stuff, really. It's a bit unusual.